Thank you so much, Dave, for that introduction. And like he said, we are working on a challenge for sure. So you'll hear more details. So how many of you know about ByteDance? Okay, one hand. A few more hands. Can everybody raise their hands? Okay. Now let's see. Who has heard about ByteDance? Okay, much better. Cool. So for those who have not heard about ByteDance, you probably have heard of TikTok. Yeah. So ByteDance is parent company of TikTok. Yes. And that is the only major apps people know outside in US. But then it has CapCut and Douyin and various others, like 52. It's supposed to be most downloaded app company in the world. So I belong to the open source program office in ByteDance. And I'm the open source program manager. My work is to build communities and ecosystem. I'm also on the board of Linux Foundation Edge Governing Board. I started my career as a network software engineer. And when I was doing my master's, I did completely unrelated stuff. I did something on computer vision, which is trendy now. But believe it or not, back then, there were no jobs in that market. So that's how I moved to networking. And when I'm not doing technology, I run, I do art, and I also do yoga. That's how I de-stress. And looks like most of you in this room are from startups and startup ecosystem. I am sure it can be very stressful. Oh, by the way, this QR code has all the links to all my references that I'll be using during my talk. So you can just scan and look at the link tree. So before I begin, I want you to de-stress so that you're in a good frame of mind to hear my talk. So how about we close our eyes, take a deep breath in, a long deep breath out, empty your lungs, another deep breath in, breath out, breath in, breath out. You can open your eyes. I hope these 3 long breaths centered you enough. And this is one of my artwork. Thank you. I highly recommend doing art or yoga or meditation or running or anything that de-stresses you. So, to begin my talk, now the bad news. Well, you can, so in the link tree on the bottom are all the references. So whatever I'm saying here, it's all from those references. So if those are wrong, then I'm lying. But then, according to AMF, AI will affect 40% of our jobs, and for good reason. Because US companies have saved between $50,000 to $75,000 just in 2023. And everybody knows ChatGPT story, how they got, so many users. Oh, did I lose a slide? Oh, yeah. Another problem with AI is most of us here, we don't look like the people on which AI models are trained on. So I think that's well-known fact. Anybody knows of an incident where the autonomous car actually had an accident? Right? It was because it was not trained on non-white people, non-white passengers. So anyway, if we were okay with all of that, it is not good for the environment either. ChatGPT, it's the most used AI model, but then it also uses a lot of resources, as my second point says. And then training a single large language model can put the carbon emission equivalent to 5 cars in their lifetime. And if you ignore all those negative parts, what do we want AI to do? Sorry? Things that we don't want to do. What would be those? Yes, right? Said aptly, correct? So why am I talking about all this here? Because this is the right audience. You guys are all startup, right? So you guys can do. You guys have the future in hands. If not, the companies will do what they want to do with AI, right? Now, this is a quote by Sam Altman when he went to India. It's a real quote. When somebody asked him, can developers or a startup with $10 million and 10 people or something like that can do what OpenAI did? And that was his quote. You can go search, and actually that article which was posted on backlash of this quote, that article is also there on that link tree. So people in this room are highly qualified to prove him wrong. Okay? So now, what is the solution? Open source AI. Anybody heard about that? Yeah, okay, better energy. I see more heads nodding. So I guess I'm preaching to the choir. Hugging Face, everybody must have heard of Hugging Face. It's like a jungle of AI models out there. Llama 2, 3 was just released yesterday. It has a flourishing ecosystem. What is lacking is the data. But then there is work going on the data front. There's open data libraries. US also is working on that. European Union, UNESCO is working on that. So yeah, there are data available for particular workloads, and we can have offline conversation about that. Now, another tool in a developer's or a startup toolbox is cloud native AI. Can you guess how many know what is cloud native? Okay, another hand test. So, sorry, go ahead. Oh, okay. Something separate. Yeah, anybody wants to define cloud native? It sits on the cloud, yeah. It's not device specific, yes. And then workload can be scaled up and scaled down just because of that, So this is a definition by CNCF. And I'm sure you would have read it, and I'm pressed for time. I'll let you read it. But because cloud native resources can be shared, development processes can be shared, they are more robust than somebody doing work in silos, right? They can be robust, engineers can work together, they can collaborate in the open source, and most importantly, you don't need big bad servers to train your big AI models. You can scale up and scale down. And there are some open source resources on that, and I will be talking about that. So this is what a cloud native AI stack looks like. So at the very bottom, you have hardware, then you have the infrastructure and platforms that does orchestration and scheduling, and then you have your ML workloads and the workloads themselves, right? So we have been working in this space for a long time, right? I talked about our app. Our apps are hosted on cloud native. About 2.5 billion people interact with ByteDance products on a daily basis. And at the bottom of it is something called shared services platform. Any product at ByteDance started as something that we wanted to use in-house. Let that sink in for a minute. All our processes, they are, developed using this shared services platform. So once we are okay to use it, that is when we productize it. So we have a productivity app called Faceshoe/Lark, which is like Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Slack, Workday, travel app, everything combined into one. TikTok also started internal. So, we iron out all the kinks, and we use open source software to develop these products as well. And when they don't meet our scaling needs, because our apps are massive, we develop on top of that, and then throw it out there in the open source, because we believe whatever problems we are facing, others are also facing. So that is what I will talk about, some of the open source projects, and I will talk about the projects in the top 2 layers. So this is a multimedia framework software. It is open source. It is a cross-platform, customizable multimedia video processing framework. It can use GPUs, any kind of GPUs. It has multi-language support, PyTorch support as well. So this particular demo that you're seeing here is an app called DOldify, an algorithm called DOldify. So basically, an old low-resolution black and white image is converted into color image on the right using AI. You can't see the high resolution here, but it's all done through AI. On the link tree, you can go to the wiki, and there are multiple such demos there that you can have a look. There is, I'm blanking out. There is code that you can play with in the wiki as well. And if you don't find an algorithm that you like, you can easily integrate into your framework. This is another example. One of the Hugging Face model, Stable Diffusion, has been integrated into Babbitt multimedia framework. And AI-generated image is multiplexed over a video processing. So why is that important? For a news broadcast, you want to influence your audience. What is the easiest way to influence audience? Suppose you are talking about pandas being endangered. What's the best way to make your audience care about pandas? Put a cute panda image on top of it, right? So as the newscasters speak, the relevant image can be, overlapped on top of that image. This is a recommendation system that again came out of our, this is basics of recommendation system. I'm sure everybody here knows about AI recommendation system. If you have used YouTube, Google, Netflix, Amazon, anything, you have experienced AI recommendation system. So Monolith is our open source project, which is a recommendation system. What is different about Monolith is that it incorporates real-time user feedback. Most other recommendation systems, they are trained at one point in time, and then inference is based on that. But with Monolith, you can take real-time feedback. So real-time likes, real-time views, they will be incorporated into the recommendations. So that translates into more engagement, more revenue for startups, whatever you're selling. Now, I was talking earlier about cloud native AI, and you don't need to use massive servers to train your AI systems. VE Scale, which you see here, at the bottom, do you see this in the middle? VE Scale, the name of the project. So that is a framework which can parallelize your AI system on Kubernetes automatically. So like, the user doesn't need to worry about the gory details. It is PyTorch native, so any Hugging Face or any PyTorch algorithm will work on it. And it is easy to debug, and distribution and parallelism both are implemented using VE Scale. So it is a zero code change model. So suppose you have a model that you got from Llama 3, Llama 2, whatever, or maybe someday if OpenAI open source its models, which has been trained on huge massive servers. You want to train that same model, use the same code on smaller servers, you can use VE Scale to do that. Now, there are other two. Anybody here from data processing domain? Otherwise, I'll skip this slide because I know we are. OK, go ahead. OK.
When you train your data model on it, can you access it via an API, to communicate with it?
How do you communicate with the model?
Can you via an API? Because I know Hugging Face has an API that you can use to speak to your model, but that's only after it's socially accepted.
So whatever is your model, that API will not change because you're using VE Scale.
So you're still hosting it on Hugging Face? You're just training it with VE Scale?
Mm-hmm.
OK. OK, thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we can talk offline on that, yeah. So, so on this link tree is also my LinkedIn. You can send me that question. OK. So on data warehouse project, so that is another enabling platform for using AIs, scaling up your AI models on any kind of server and databases. So it has compute and storage separation. So to run your data warehouse, you don't need big servers. You can run it on smaller servers because there is compute and storage separation. So it can be scaled up or scaled down. So Biconity is actually based on a very popular open source project called ClickHouse. Anybody has heard of that one? Yeah, that is another. No? OK. Sorry? What is ClickHouse? It's also a data warehouse project. It's an open source one. So basically, when you're querying, so like say Amazon's and Netflix and whatever, they store their customer database, right? And when they give recommendation, they need to see your search history, whatever, right? So it is put on databases. And those databases are usually massive. So in earlier days, customer database just meant name, company, age, blah, 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 right? Now database also means what content you watched with, what was the last time you watched it. For each content piece, what was the history, maybe what category. So databases are massive these days. So you need those different data warehouse mechanisms to manage all that. And ClickHouse is one of the open source ones. But it doesn't separate compute and storage. So if you have to run a massive data warehouse project, then you have to use big servers. Whereas in Biconity, you can separate them, so you can scale up or scale down the servers. Does that make more sense? And this graph is basically, showing the performance. Less is good. So the blue lines is for Biconity, so you can see how fast it is compared to the other servers. Now, this is another one, Magic Animate. So on the left, there is a reference image, and if a motion sequence is given to this algorithm, the algorithm will animate the image using AI. Was there a question? And this is another one, story. Okay, so here is the link tree for the ByteDance open source projects. And like Dave mentioned, we're going to have a hackathon with Flapmax. So you will get a chance to work on some of these projects, and we'll love to hear your ideas about that. And there is also a ByteDance open source innovator program. So if you're part of that hackathon, you will be eligible to be an innovator as well, whether or not you win the prize. With the innovator program, that's a recognition. We give you access to the latest open source software, access to our engineering teams that can answer questions for you, case-to-case basis project stipends, and chance to speak at our events and conferences. So, just a recap of what we did today. We talked about the AI, what impact it has on our lives, what we can do about it, how open source can play a part in it, and we talked about some of the ByteDance open source tools. Certainly, they are not the only tools available. There are more tools, right? There's a whole ecosystem of that. But we want to support you regardless. So, waiting to hear from you. Thank you.